This episode of Hammerlock Podcast with Tyson Dux is brought to you by Hammerlock Apparel. Visit hammerlockapparel.com today. On today's episode, we talk about Rick Martel as a babyface, the figure four leg lock, and how young pros should handle themselves in the locker room. It's Flair and Martel from '85. Let's go! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm Scotty D here once again with our good friend, the man that is making old school cool, Tyson Dux. How you doing, man?
Yo, what's happening, Scott? I kind of like that handle of making old school cool. I think that's one of those things that we should preach that more often. Is that old is new again, everybody? Old is new.
Yeah, and speaking of old, we are going way back today to 1985. We've got a matchup between Ric Flair and Rick Martel. Happened in the land of the rising sun. It was in Japan. What do you know about this match ahead of time to lead us into it?
Well, this. You know what I love about this match is I've said it before online. Like Rick Martel, actually. Rick Martel is one of my top four guys, and a lot of people didn't know that before. But Martel has been one of those guys that I've always truly enjoyed and inspired to be like and work towards, because he's a sleeper. Everybody thinks he's one of those guys that, like, you'll sleep on him. But if you go back and watch Rick Martel stuff, that dude was absolutely brilliant. From the start of his career, being a young babyface, to a terrific heel in WWF, to his last run with WCW, where he brought old school philosophy back to his work. I had a short run there. Rick Martel's my man. This one is also an All Japan Pro Wrestling, which I worked for. I worked for All Japan, and I'm very proud of that fact. But this is their 13th anniversary show. And it's super, super awesome, because we have Ric Flair being the NWA heavyweight champion versus Rick Martel, who was the AWA heavyweight champion. And how, like, these are the two biggest territories in the United States of America, working one of the biggest territories in Japan. So, like, you can see where the territories back in the day would work with each other to make business great. And it was all about business. It wasn't about sticking it to them. It wasn't about running somebody off and running them out of business. It was about working with each other in their own little areas to make business great. And this, everybody, is when wrestling was at its greatest and finest point. It's all downhill from there. Being the pessimistic old man that I am, we've gone downhill. Anyways, I digress. This is a great match. I can't wait to tear this apart. There is actually some negatives I want to throw at you today in this match. And it's not a lot. It's just two things I want to show you that to look out for. And these are super pros, two of the greatest in the biz. I'm not ripping on them to get over, as they would say. I'm not doing it. But, like, this is I'm just going to explain why, what happened, and probably what in their mind, what was going on. And then we'll just go from there.
All right. So if you want to watch along with us, you can find this match currently on YouTube. It's titled Ric Flair versus Rick Martel, AJPW 13th Anniversary Show, 1985 in brackets. The YouTube account is Pavel Durak, and there's a few other options to find it as well. That's the one we're watching right now. If you want to follow along exactly, the whole match on YouTube is 29 minutes and 13 seconds. I'll give you a second to get it queued up there. Pause if you need to. We're going to get started here pretty quickly and get into the show. All right, so if everyone's ready to go, I'm going to count down from 5, and then we're going to hit plays. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, press play.
So right off the start, and I'm going to be really picky on this stuff as we get into these more and more. The first thing I want you to take note of is, like, different ring attire is not over the top. It's flashy, it looks great, but it's not contacts. It's not giant helmets. There used to be like, oh, well, there's Vader wore helmet and stuff like that. Yes, of course, that was Vader. He didn't wear anything else, though. He just came in there with his gear on and this massive Ram helmet. But he ditched that pretty quickly as well. You're going to see such like the most gorgeous robe in all professional wrestling, and that's a wrestling thing or a boxing thing. It's a warm-up robe. You come to the ring in a robe worn by Ric Flair that costs thousands of dollars, and then you have a sweet like jump warm-up jacket that is covered in sequins, and both very flashy, but yet still within the realms of what a fighter would wear anyways. Another thing to take note of is gear. Both guys are wearing different colored gear. And I know that's so simplistic and elementary, but it reigns true that if you're wearing the same color stuff, you're not going to stand out. And so it's hard for people that are just watching you for the first time to get really behind whoever. Because if you're wearing black and the other guy's going to wear black, he's like, oh, I like the guy with shorter hair. You know what I mean? So like you want to kind of look at the fact that, oh, I like that guy in blue. So that guy gets invested a little bit more. Elementary, yes, I know, but it actually works.
And back in these days, or I guess even today, were the guys responsible for paying for all their own gear and robes and things like that?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. It's not very often that you see guys wearing like sponsors. Only in Japan. Like in Japan, they still get sponsored by certain companies, and then the sponsors actually pay for their stuff. But these guys, old school guys, they wear their own stuff. So once we get going here, we're going to see some really, really good action right off the start. Of course, they cut away after all the intros and all that stuff, and they show that they're really putting a big deal behind this because it's a unification match. The first thing we're going to do is get on, like you're going to see at about 3 minutes in, you're going to see good action. And they take it from, they don't even catch the lockup. They take it from Rick Martel having the headlock. You're just going to see the typical universal spot by Flair and Martel going to be that tackle, drop down, leapfrog, block, hip toss into a hip toss. Flair's going to take it, and he's going to automatically tell the crowd or show the crowd that he is the bad guy. He's the chicken shit. He's going to beg off. He's going to be a bit of a weasel, say, no more, don't touch me. And that kind of attitude is kind of missing because everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be super tough. But with every great heel, you need to be a bit of a chicken shit. Rick Martel is one of the greatest baby faces, by the way, of all times, because Rick Martel is always fired up. So anytime that Ric Flair is begging off, Rick Martel is looking like he wants to bite his face off. And I love it. I love that wide hand, wide stance look where it looks like a real old school grappler. So once you get into it about, like, we're talking the beg off, we're taking the pull, he pulls off the ropes, he takes a sweet bump, Flair does. He goes and to beat him up in the corner. And then Ric Flair will pick up Martel and give him a reverse atomic drop, also known as a Manhattan drop. And it's such a great sell. It's so realistic. And that's, when I went to wrestling school, was taught to get things applied on you legitimately so that you knew how to sell. I know in today's market, you have to be a little bit more sensitive. You really can't just hurt a person for real. But back in the day, we're talking in the 90s here, they would actually apply these things a little bit more snugly so that you would understand how the sell is. I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it, but there is an art to it, that to feel a little bit of pain, to understand where to move is probably a good thing. Scott, what do you think so far? What are you liking?
So far, so good. Really competitive match. We just saw Flair hammer Martel into the ring post on the outside, and now working a hammerlock.
See, and you know what's great? They just got off now. Ric Flair comes in, works him over, puts him in a hammerlock, drives him down to the canvas, and then goes for a pin. And that's another thing I want you to watch in this match, is the fact that every time he's going for a pin and he's unsuccessful, he looks like he's actually trying to pin him. And then when Martel kicks out, like pulls that shoulder up, very amateur-esque in his escape, he keeps going for it. He keeps going for that same pin, putting the real importance on the fact that, and that's missing as well, is if you really want to convey the fact that this is an actual sport and that you're trying to win a contest by pinning a man's shoulders on the mat, put the emphasis on trying to pin that guy. A lot of guys walk away from, they give them a big move and they walk away. That makes no sense. Or they find the hard camera so that they can make their facial expressions instead of doing the one thing that they should do first and foremost, go for the pin. Now we got a top wrist lock situation where we had him in an outside armbar where it was bent back, almost in a key lock position, like a reverse key lock. And then he slips into this nice, Ric Flair slips into this nice inside top wrist lock. And this inside top wrist lock now is turning into a battle, and it's one of those things that is lost, where it's a power struggle right now, where they're both on their feet, they're struggling back and forth in a top wrist lock, and there it is. Boom! Pulling the hair. That's the second time now. If you've watched along, Ric Flair has pulled that hair twice. He's a dirty, sneaky heel. He's always going to yank the hair because he's not going to outpower the babyface. That's not his role. They're the same size. They have the same similar build. They're in great shape. So of course he's going to. They're comparable, but he's going to make the babyface look stronger. So he's always going to take the easy way out, being a dastardly heel. You'll see in this match, too, a few times. You'll see Rick Martel actually go for a punch when he's in an armbar or like a wrist lock. And then the first thing he'll do is he'll look at the referee like, I'm going to punch him in the face. And that's basically just giving that referee the cue to say, hey, don't punch Ric Flair in the face. But it's so well done. It's very well done. It's old school. It's like a babyface wouldn't punch unless it was the last resorts. And that's when you build that crowd into a frenzy and then eventually get that punch in the face, right, where it means something. Again, Ric Flair actually wins that struggle, brings him down, and then, of course, pulls the hair and gets back on him. Now, this is my favorite part. I gifted this the other day, and I will gif it again, because this part where he gets him in the corner, Ric Flair starts chopping away, puts Martel in the corner, and then Martel fires back, and then watch him unload. Watch the beauty of this spot. I love it. This will get you if that doesn't get you invested in professional wrestling, the wrestling is dead to you. Find something else to watch, because that is the best spot in this match. Is one of my favorite points of this match is Martel firing back lefts and rights, some great punches, and then those great bumps, those two bumps. He doesn't bump immediately. He takes a whole bunch of a flurry of punches, and then he comes back. And then he takes a bump. So Flair takes two great bumps in this match. And now they're fighting, like, it's just back and forth, the way it should be. We're talking about a unification match. So we have two of your biggest champions, two of the biggest territories in the States. So why wouldn't you have a contest that was more back and forth? Both are still looking strong. Both look great. And the story we're telling here is that these are the top. These are top guys. So of course, the heat isn't going to be extremely long. It's going to be more of a back and forth contest. If you're at where I'm at right now, you've just seen Rick Martel. He's done a small package. Ric Flair leads into Ric Flair going to the corner. Goes for a body slams him, and of course miss the elbow. So these are little movements. They're just going to move back and forth. One's going to have a little bit of advantage, and the other one's going to be having the advantage. The heat isn't going to come until quite a bit later. One thing I want you to take note of is the fact that Ric Flair has used a knee to the breadbasket, as it were, a knee to the guts, at least 3 times now. And that's one of those negative points that I want to bring up, is for all the great things in this match. This one thing you'll see, Flair goes for this cutoff. In my opinion, remember, these guys are calling this whole match. The only thing that they know right now is how they want the finish to be, but this is all call. This is straight up professional wrestling, raw. natural, the way it should be. The only thing that I would say is, like, there's too many instances where Martel kind of looks like, it makes Rick Martel kind of look like a dummy because he's always taken that knee to the gut as a cutoff. And then I've seen it 3 times now. You'll see it more times. Like, that's going to be the story of the match, is Martel's going to keep coming back, and then Ric Flair is going to keep cutting him off by kneeing him in the stomach, which is a little too repetitive for me. However, I want you to also notice in this whole thing, while we're waiting in this abdominal stretch, as they're working that sweet abdominal stretch into the reverse abdominal stretch, which is classic and brilliant. And please, everybody, bring back an abdominal stretch if you know how to do it. But I want you to notice that there isn't just flippers, as we call them in the business, forearms to the side of the head, and there's not just chops. I mean, Rick Martel has done punches, forearms to the chest. He's done chops. He's done forearms. And, like, it's an array of strikes. Don't get lost. Work on your strikes. If you're learning to be a professional wrestler, let's work on other areas that make this game so great. So you don't have to just do chops. You don't just have to do punches. There are so many different strikes. You can go to the head. You can go to the back of the shoulders. You can go to the stomach. Let's mix it up a bit. So again, we have the same kind of cutoff as in that knee or that forearm to the stomach. So that's the only thing that I'm like. There's only a few points that I'll make in this thing that are not in favor of it, because I absolutely love this match. But that's one of those things, is that there'll be too many cutoffs just using the same kind of offense to the stomach. And the only thing that I see in that is it kind of makes the other guy look kind of look stupid. Why would you keep getting fooled into the same kind of instance? Scotty, have you noticed that? Have you noticed anything like that? Has anything stuck out to you so far as Rick Martel's about to get up on that top rope and hammer down some sweet blows to the skull?
Nope, just following along here. Just one thing that stands out is how closely matched they seem to be. So everything's very, very competitive, and it looks like either guy could get the upper hand at any minute. So it's very back and forth. Where are you at time-wise here? I just want to make sure everyone's queued up exactly where you are.
So if you're with me right now, I'm at 1345. So 1345 is where I'm at.
Perfect.
So, like, when we're now if you are at that 1345 spot, you're going to see they're going to go in and out of the ring. They're not going to stay outside that ring very much. They're going to come back in the ring, and all that outside the ring is to show that they can't be contained between the ropes. Their battle's going to be on the outside, but you're not going to see them go through the crowd. They're not going to use the guardrails. They're just going to be outside for a second just to bring it in. It's just spilling the action out, bringing it back in. One of those things that we talk about in this day and age, and a lot of new kids will say, well, wrestling today is more athletic. This is the point that I've made before, and I want to make again. These guys are super athletes. These are athletic human beings. Just because you don't see someone do a backflip to their feet doesn't mean that they're not athletic. It means they haven't done gymnastics. So when you see Rick Martel get whipped into that rope and he ducks that clothesline and he comes up and he hits that crossbody, that's 100 miles an hour. That's athletic. That looks so good. Also, if you're with the watch along with me, you've just seen Ric Flair's patented knee drop to the skull, which looks great. There's never daylight on it, which means he actually puts it as close to the head as possible. Into that second one, which is one of my favorite spots, where he actually catches the knee, gets to a standing position, and puts Ric Flair in his own move. He puts him in a figure four. I absolutely love that spot. I love that spot. That's a great spot. So now they're in a figure four position. So brilliant, so simple. Like, you don't have to do a backflip to get people invested. He hits him with that sweet knee drop to the skull, gets back up, tries to go for it again after the pin, goes for it again. He catches his shins. He comes to a standing position, sweeps him out, figure four. Of course, in any hold that you see in this, they're not just laying there. They're actually working holds. You've seen in the start, which is great too, is like if they had a headlock on, the guy's just not standing there with his arms around the waist. He's actually trying to get out of that headlock. It's meant to look competitive. It's meant to look like a fight. So if I'm in a situation that's uncomfortable, I want out of there. And that's what they're showing. So now Rick Martel has that sweet figure four on. Of course, they're going to work it back and forth. He's going to get to that rope. He's going to hold on that rope. Of course, they're going to call for a break. Of course, he's going to fire up, of course, and pull Ric Flair off. And he's going to try to go back into that figure four. And it's a push off. And then here it is again. Here it is. He's going to come up. He's going to fire up. Now this is it's back and forth. He grabs that headlock, shin breaker. That's a patented Ric Flair move. I want you to watch Rick Martel as he starts to get up. Watch Rick Martel sell. It's very subtle. It's not over the top. Of course, right now he's selling. He's holding his left knee. As he gets up, look, boom, can't get up. I cannot get up. I can't stand under my own power. So he's going to use those ropes to get up. Of course, he's going to be back and forth now. The best part about this match, too, is we got two of the best in the business, and they're going to work each other's legs now. You're going to notice this from this point forward. There's going to be a lot of leg work by both guys. They both took out the left wheel of each other. I want you to also notice the fact that every time that as they're going to get up, they're going to use those ropes a lot more to hang off of. That doesn't make you look weak. If you're selling and you're using those ropes, that's not going to make you look weak. That's a tool to use. Those ropes are an actual tool to use to really show the fact that even though you're not physically able to do it, your mental game is strong. It makes you look stronger. Sell people, babyfaces sell, use those ropes. Martel, Steamboat, Savage all made a career of being babyfaces hanging off those ropes. And there's nothing wrong with like using those ropes at all times. It just shows that you're still in the game, even though the body is starting to shut down. Here's my second point that I don't like in this match. Of course, we talked about Flair doing the knees to the gut way too often, too much, like where he cuts them off the same way over and over and over again. Of course, like I said before, this is all call. So if there's nothing else there, you're just going to go for what you're going for, because this is the beauty of wrestling, is that it's raw, it's natural, it's good. Ric Flair's figure four has always bothered me because it's on the reverse. Ric Flair has always applied the figure four the wrong way. He's always put it where the pressure is on the right knee, so that leg that crosses over should be crossing over the left leg. So the right leg should cross over the left leg. That way, the pressure is on the left knee. Flair has always done it the opposite, where the pressure is on the right leg, whereas he has always wrestled and had torn down the left side. He's always done the left side, so you're always working the left, but then he goes through that, and it's always putting pressure on the right. And that's always kind of bothered me. Did you ever notice that, Scott? Have you ever put a figure four on anybody or had it put on you and realized the fact that Ric Flair has never done his own move correctly ever?
I did not notice that. That is new information.
Bam! There you go. There's some learning for you.
Yeah. There's
some sweet learning. Another thing I want you to notice, and this is the great thing about this match, is if you're in a professional wrestling match, if you're working the leg over, if you're working a body part over, it doesn't mean that you can't go away from that body part. If you went away from that body part and did something else like a suplex or a body slam or grabbed a chin lock and then had people almost forget that you worked that said body part, but then you came back to it, that makes it look even better, because then people realize, like, oh my God, he's actually hunting that body part down. And it's not just, he's not working it over all the time. And that also makes the babyface look a little bit better if he gets cut off that way. So that's just another little tidbit for you if you want to strengthen your psychological game in professional wrestling to really pop a crowd with actual wrestling. Is like, you can work a body part, go away from it, and then cut that guy off again at that same body part. It makes you look like a genius. If you're with me right now after my sweet little rant, I'm at 20 minutes and 40 seconds. We've just seen him, the headlock again, shoot off the ropes, and then take that nasty elbow to the face. Talking about Martel taking the dirty elbow. And then we got Ric Flair coming right back up, sending him off into a reverse, into a sleeper. One thing to be noted, do you notice they're not hopping? They're not skipping into those ropes. It's full 100 miles an hour into those ropes like it should be. If a man throws you into the ropes, you're going to go almost uncontrollably into those ropes. And when he catches him with that sleeper, it looks like he's trying to run through him, first of all, and it's an actual physical catch where he actually catches a man's body by the head. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. And it's one of those things that's missing, because a lot of times we set up our moves and we skip into the ropes. And don't tell me you don't do it. If you watch yourself, you'll lead with that right leg, and that right leg will come up and he'll do a little skip move, and then you won't hit those ropes as fast as you should, because you're not taking off like a track meet. You're taking off like a casual jog. So fix it. I'm just telling you to fix it. Fix it.
No hesitation at all. It's full speed, and you can tell there's no one's waiting for something to happen. It's just full speed ahead.
Full speed ahead. And if you didn't catch it, then you're shit out of luck, basically, because that's the way they roll. A beautiful back suplex by Ric Flair, leading into Ric Flair throwing him out of the ring. Again, guys, it's not about overdoing the outside of the ring. They're not overdoing it. It's just showing that whenever Ric Flair just needs that sweet break, he's going to take a break by throwing him up to the outside. This is also leading to something that kind of always baffled me about this match, is why the instance with the post now. I get the idea of using the post with Rick Martel off the start with the arm, but I don't understand why we're going to see color here in a second. So this is color means in the business when you're going to cut your head open, you're going to blade. So Ric Flair, we're into this match. We're 2/3 into this match, and now he's going to blade. It's one of those things. I guess he's looking to draw as much out of this competitive contest between two super champs as he is. But I don't understand the need for it. But that I digress. It's just one of those things. He just thought that way, I guess. Then that's just the way it was. It didn't need it. You don't need it, but it's fine. Another thing I want you to notice, too, is that when he cuts in, once he sees blood, Rick Martel is a vicious piranha. If you've ever seen a piranha, that would be him right there. As soon as he smells blood, he goes for the kill. So when he gets in the ring, there's no nonsense. He's on him like he bumps him. He's full mount. He drives him down. He takes him in the corner. He beats the ever-living crap out of him in the corner. Referee has to push Rick Martel back. And then, of course, Ric Flair with this patented face plant drop and then drops himself down. All good stuff. We're at the point now where he cuts him off the same way, that knee to the belly that drives me a little bit insane by this point. I'm like, that's too many times. Have you noticed that, Scott? Have you noticed how many times he's done it?
Yeah, and that last one looked a little weak in particular.
And you know what? I will give you this one, though. I will give it to you on this one. The same with the Bret Hart thing. These guys could go for hours. These guys could wrestle for hours. That point doesn't bother me. That small, weak knee is showing that they're both exhausted. And that's kind of what I want you to also take away from it. That is the thing. That's psychological. They're in a war. So I'm bleeding. I'm almost incapacitated. I'm woozy. I'm dizzy from getting hit in the face so many times. My stamina is not the same anymore because I'm like loss of blood and stuff like that. So that part I do not mind, because a lot of guys nowadays are so athletically conditioned, and it is a work. So we're not actually fighting. But if you ever went 20 plus minutes of straight fighting, you would be exhausted. And that's that part I do not mind. Great slingshot splash. And that's so great. That's so old school. It shows a little bit of athleticism. It shows a little bit of a little high fly action without making it look corny, not making it look cheap. It looks great. It looks real good. I love this part too, where he hits him with that sweet rib cage breaker and then goes for that second rope splash and eats those knees so well. The best part of that whole thing is the sell afterwards. Martel will sell his guts from taking those knees like $1 million. Again, this is what this match is going to look like. It's going to look like a sweet battle. It's a sweet, sweet battle. It's back and forth. There's still back and forth. There is no real heat. There's no real comeback, because it's going to be something that is back and forth way more than a lot of matches would be back in the day. There would be more heat in usual matches. That leads into that sweet little spot where he ducks a clothesline, catches him in the crossbody. Both gentlemen go to the floor. Great bump, by the way. We're talking about a shorter ring, being in Japan, so it's not as high up. We're coming to the end. This will be the end, because in a unification match, we're not going to ruin both territories by having one guy reign supreme. Japan was known for a 20 count. They have outside 20 count, but it's by the rules of the NWA and the AWA. So it's a 10-second count, and they're both gentlemen are counted out. And like I said before, there was no real heat. The heat isn't very long in this match. It's very much back and forth, because that's the psychology behind the match. Is that this is supposed to be a knockout, drag-out fight between two of the greatest champs in both their respective territories, in another respective territory. Scott, give me what you think. What you like about it. What you take away from it. Did I blow your mind with a few of those little things? Let me know what do you think.
Yeah, no, that was, as usual, just incredible commentary there, and some really cool insights that go overlooked with the untrained eye. Really neat to watch. Super competitive. Very few high-risk maneuvers until you get to the end. There's a few, but it kind of speaks to how closely matched they are. If you're really closely matched with your competitor, you're not going to do anything too high risk, because it's the guy's going to get the upper hand on you. So it was a really cool match to watch. Thanks for bringing that one to the table. That was really good.
You know what? The other thing I will say about this match, and I'll put it out there, I love about this match is I would like you to go into practice. If you guys are aspiring to be professional wrestlers, go in and just call in the ring. Just get in there. Don't throw 1,000 cool moves. Stick with your basic fundamentals, your body slams, your cross bodies, your tackles, your hip tosses, all the stuff that makes this business great and look real. Where you can actually apply this. If you were on a real fight, you could actually apply some of this stuff. And just get in there and work these holds over and do a little bit of a match, and tell me how exhausted you are. Because these guys are always within close contact of each other, because they're calling the whole thing. So they're talking back and forth, making everything look like $1 million. But another thing that you have to respect is the fact that is exhausting. To be that close to your opponent, always having hands on. There's never an instance where they separate too far, because what I tell the kids in class is space is dangerous. So if you make it you're too far away from your opponent, if there's too much space, you're wasting valuable time where you can communicate, and you don't want that. You want to be within close proximity that you can hear stuff, or at least have a vibe. And if it's real, you're going to be within a reach of that person anyways. You're not going to be across the ring from it. The most foolish things in the world. I always make guys do 50 push-ups. If they're before the lockup, I'll call that spot. Before they lock up, they'll look at each other and do you want to do it, or should I do it? Are you taking the headlock, or am I taking the headlock? That is ridiculous. So as soon as I hear that, everybody drops and gives me 50, because this stuff is meant to be called. So once you're in those situations where you tie up, that's your opportunity to talk. And I love the part about this match. Another part that I love about this, Scott, is the fact that when they started with professional wrestling, with chain wrestling, they ended with wrestling, but it's still dynamic. It still looked great. where Ric Flair actually goes for a headlock, goes to a scissor lock by Martel, and then they bridge up, and that leads into their spot with the crossbody over the top rope. It's wrestling based. They finish with it, and they finish strong with it. I love that match. There's always going to be a few things that the trained eye is going to look at and pick apart at, but I love that match. Yeah,
very cool. And if you had to guess, I mean, do they have the finish and that's it when they go into that match?
I would assume so. I would assume by the way that was structured and the way that they were working back and forth together and how close they were, that was just all on the fly. That was all worked. And Steamboat talks about that a lot. He felt the crowd. He worked off the crowd. He did a lot of the same thing that Flair and Martel did, where they would just go out there and do it. They would know their planned finish, and then they would go out there and work accordingly.
Right on. That was great. Do you have time for some questions? We got a few questions sent in this after the last episode.
Yes, I do. And let me just start. Let me just say congratulations to my boy Hakeem Zayn in Impact Wrestling. I don't get to watch Impact Wrestling a lot, but there's a couple of guys down there, good friends of mine, that are like super talented and deserve to have more than they have in professional wrestling, both exposure-wise and push-wise. And it was great, and it's awesome to see on Twitter Hakeem Zayn become the X Division champion. One of those guys that I've said for years now, and it's not on me. This is all about him. I've said it for years. I've seen him work. I've seen him progress. I've seen him turn into a better version of himself and consistently improve. And it was well done, sir. Well deserved. Hakeem Zayn, X Division champion. I'm very happy.
Congratulations to Hakeem Zayn. And first question we got this week comes from a little follow-up on our first episode when you talked about being in the ring for your first time at the Air Canada Centre. Follow-ups were, how does that match go down? How does the match get laid out? Are you getting told how it goes by an agent, or is it up to you and Sick Boy to figure that out? What was the finish and who came up with it? What was the most memorable part of the match? What happens when you come back through the curtain? Any other memorable backstage memories from that first night?
So my first night, as I've mentioned before at ACC, it was the craziest, most chaotic thing in the world, because it wasn't just a dark match. It started out as being just a workout with the rest of them. So a bunch of tryout people all in the ring. There's a lot of us. There was a lot of us there, and I was fortunate enough to be picked out of the whole group because I'm a chain wrestler. I'm a technical wrestler. So they won't bring their heads up from their phones unless your feet are correct. If your footing is bad, they're just going to go back and look on Instagram or whatever they were doing at the time. They wouldn't give you a second look. So right away, my feet were correct because I used to box a bit. And professional wrestling, I'm very nitpicky about certain techniques. So my feet were great, and so I got picked. I think it was basically because of my technical wrestling ability to have this match. So that's first. That's first and foremost. I went there just to work out, and then I got thrown into a match which blew my mind. It was against Sick Boy from WCW. This was the merger. WCW was bought out by WWE. So with that being said, Sick Boy was trying out as well as I was to get a job with this company. Not much sticks out in my head because I've always been a dude that always focuses on going ahead, figuring out what I want to do in my career going further. So I never really reflect on stuff. I'm not a guy that goes back and thinks about it. One thing I will say for sure, though, and I know this for a fact, Tony Gurria was my agent. When you're in these situations, you're not allowed to do fancy stuff. They said, hey, keep it all in the ring. Don't give me an idea of what you're doing. You have 5 minutes. 5 minutes with entrances is what we had. So we have 5 minutes, including the time that we have to get down to the ring. So me and Sick Boy have basically 3.5 to 4 minutes to put on something and make people look at us in a certain way. I don't remember anything about the match except the fact that I had a headlock on him and he went for a back suplex and I landed on my feet. And a lot of people pop for that I know, because I'm very much a ground professional wrestler. I'm grounded based and stuff like that. And like, oh my God, you like did a backflip to your feet? I'm like, yeah, I could do that stuff. I just choose not to do that stuff because I love reality-based professional wrestling. I've always stuck to what I am and what I enjoy and my creed, my belief in what this is. So anyways, yeah, I did a backflip to my feet off of a back suplex, and then I don't know where it went from there, but it was basically me as a dancing baby face getting beat up and then going for pins, because that was my thing. I wasn't going to do crazy moves. I was going to be the guy that showed that I was a good wrestler and I could be built on. So in that 5 minutes, Tony told us, don't go out there and do anything crazy. The finish would be Sick Boy is going to go over. I do believe Sick Boy went over it was easy. It was a good night. It didn't hurt. The thing that I take away from that match, coming back through Gorilla, all the guys were just chuckling because I did a goofy little dance back then. I was very charismatic. All the guys were impressed. They enjoyed my stuff. It was neat to come behind the curtain and then just give a chuckle like, oh, that was good. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Thanks. So that part was great. I love that part. The part that I remember the most from that match is just going out there and walking out that entrance for the first time and seeing over 16,000 people. A lot of people will talk about it being 16,000 people, that it would be too much or you'd have stage fright. Honestly, when you look at that many people, the sensory overload is a lot. It's too much to take in. So looking out there, it just looked like a moving sea. It didn't even look. I couldn't pull one person out of the crowd. It was just a sea of human beings. So I don't know how else to explain it, but it was kind of neat to see because it just seemed like one body movement instead of individuals in the crowd. Coming back, of course, that's the same night that the guy had to take off. He wasn't there to do the security role. And the craziest moment of my professional wrestling career was right there when I was looking up at the dead man, The Undertaker. I had no idea what he was going to do to me. He could have given me that last ride power bomb. He could have choke bombed me or choke slammed me. He could have done a gorilla press to the outside. I was game for anything because this was one of my idols. One of those guys that you really respect. Of course, The Undertaker had that broken hand. He just hit me with that sweet punch, and I took the best bump I possibly could and rolled out of that ring so that he could get more heat on Brock Lesnar in that feud. So to be in there with these two giant human beings, the top guys of the sport, was an absolute mind-boggling experience. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Professional wrestling is a wonderful thing.
Cool. That's such a good story for your first night in the WWE. Another question here. Over the last 24 years in professional wrestling, you've gone from being the young guy in the locker room to one of the veterans in the locker room. If you were just starting out again as a rookie today, how would you handle yourself in the locker room, around the wrestlers, the promoter, leading up to the show, before the matches, after the matches? Any stories of the best or worst behavior you've seen in youngsters? Any embarrassing mistakes you made as a youngster?
Well, that's the whole point of growing and learning and becoming an adult, is the mistakes of the past become the things that you hold on to in the future. There's been many instances. There's been many times I take a look at myself, and the things that I look at the most when I started out in this business that I take away from is the fact that I wasn't in the shape that I should have been. I had body dysmorphia so bad. Because I was a thick, strong farm kid. I came from a farm. I looked great. But when I went to wrestling school and had no money to eat and basically starved myself down to about 140 pounds. So I lost about 60 pounds of muscle and size. And as I came out of wrestling school and started to work and live and rent a place and stuff like that, or board at a place and continue with my wrestling dream in Ontario, I didn't have the size. It was not big anymore. And I thought that I was the same farm kid, but the amount of damage that I took on by like almost starving to death for 8 months or so of my wrestling training really affected me, but I didn't see it. So if I could go back and just give my own self a reality check, I would, because I would have came to the table in a way better shape, because this is professional wrestling is a competitive sport. It's a competitive contest that is combative. So why would you not put your best foot forward in being in better shape? If you're not in good shape, you're in the wrong business. If you think that just because it's entertainment and that the ending is pre-planned, if that's your goal, if that I'll do this instead of UFC because I won't get hurt, you're in the wrong mentality. You are in the wrong sport, because all of this still applies. It is still combative. It is still athletic. It is still a sport. So I would have been in better shape. I would have been on a better regime. I would have seen the amount of damage that wrestling school had caused me, like physically, with losing so much weight, with not having any money. Being that, I would have set myself up better financially and saved a little bit more as a kid to do said things, but I wasn't. So that being said, in today's day and age, it's all about respect. It's all about being professional. And unfortunately, in this day and age, everybody feels entitled. It's not, and it's nobody's fault. It is just the way life is now. Everybody has a sense of entitlement, and it's just from the way that life is. It's the way that everything's instant. Everything is, and there is no winners or losers. Everybody gets a participation award. It's not the way it should be. And like, in my opinion, like, this is my opinion only. So if you're offended by this, so be it. And this is just my opinion. You have yours, walk on. But if you're entitled, if you feel entitled, if you feel as though you deserve to be a place, give yourself a shake, get your head checked, because you're not owed anything. You're not owed anything in this life. The only thing you're owed is to yourself. So if you think you're owed something, work harder. That's what I tell people. Do better. Work harder. If your promos suck, work on your promos. If your physical body looks bad, work on your body. If your conditioning's bad, run. If your gear is crap, there's 1,000 people to work on gear now and make you good stuff. If you don't have any ideas for gear, find something simplistic. Be simplistic, but make it look professional. The idea of professional wrestling is the first word, is we're professionals. Unfortunately, a lot of this gets construed with independent or indie. And I hate independent wrestling. I hate indie wrestling. I am not an indie wrestler. I am a professional wrestler. I've always started this business as that. And that's what it is. It's a business. It's about coming into a territory, respecting your promoters, doing the job that they've told you to do. If you have issues, take it up with the promoter. Don't go on Twitter. Don't do it online. Don't scoff at people online about stuff. Do your stuff as a man would, face to face with the promoter, with the talent that you're working with. Work with that person. Discuss it. Maybe you can come to some kind of agreement. If you are on a set price, if you got a set price, work for set price. If you feel as though you deserve more, talk to them, communicate, see what you can do to get your raise. Unfortunately, nowadays, with these entitled children, this is the problem, is that everybody thinks they're owed something. They're owed a bigger push. They're owed more money. They're owed a contract. You're not owed anything. Please. This is professional wrestling. Let's stay professional. Let's work harder. Let's be better. If you see something online, don't copy it. Be yourself. Be individual. Stand out. That is my rant for that stuff.
So for a young guy, if he's first time or first few times in the dressing room, how should he handle himself? Should he just kind of keep to himself? Should he introduce himself to some of the veterans, the older guys? How would you handle that?
So it's always been a cardinal rule that, like, Steve Corino hates this. Steve hates the old handshake thing, but it's the way it should. Like, all it is about making introductions. So put your best foot forward. So when you go into a dressing room, the first thing you're going to do is introduce yourself to the promoters, the ring crew, because there is nobody left out of this. Everybody that's on the show or a part of the show is a part of the show and make the show better. So if they are concessions and they sell tickets, they sell popcorn, you shake their hands. You say, hello, it's good to meet you. And then you do that with all the workers, you work all the wrestlers, you do that with the veterans. You make sure that you are within close proximity, that you can listen to the veterans. Don't bother them. But if they might take a liking to you, if you're a respectable young person, they might say, hey, and talk to you a bit. The other thing is like when you introduce yourself and you get ready, respect your time, respect the job that you're given, do it to the best of your ability, whatever they're asking you to do. Another thing would be always keep your eyes open and your ears open and your mouth shut. Don't be the idiot in the room. Take the time. It's not about being shy, but don't be outlandish. Don't be annoying. Just survey the area, survey the grounds that you're in, respect the people in the room, and adjust accordingly. If you're spoken to, speak, but speak in turn. If you have an opinion on something, don't throw your opinion out there if you're brand new. Just listen. Nobody really needs to hear your opinion. If this is your first match and you're working beside a guy that's been a lot of different places and he's done it for maybe 10 years and had 100 and 200 matches, give that guy the floor. If he asks you a question, answer him accordingly and be respectful about it. It's all about respect and gaining relationships. And you can only make relationships in business if you show respect. If you give respect, respect will be given.
Right on. Any final thoughts about the match we just watched or anything else before we sign off for the day?
The only thing that I'm going to say, and this is a little extra homework for you if you want to check it out, I want you to check it out, is how can you have a match in 3 minutes? A lot of people make that excuse. They say they put two young kids out there and they'll do way too much. They'll say, hey, you have 5 minutes, go out there. Of course, they'll go over their time, which is such a no-no. If someone tells you 5 minutes, you end at either 5 minutes or 4:50. You end and you get out of that ring. Don't mess around. The one thing that I would say is watch Rick Martel in WCW. Is Rick Martel versus Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero's the heel. Rick Martel's the baby face. This is the last run for Rick Martel. He gets injured pretty soon after this, which is sad because I loved his last run, except for his boots. His boots were terrible. But check it out. Honest to God, it's the most annoying thing ever. It's like he has white boots, but then he puts these black vinyl socks over the top of his boots. It's the same as Sting. When Sting put those black boots on and put those football socks, those white socks over the top, drove me insane. I don't know what these people are thinking. But anyways, I digress from that. Rick Martel, I still love you. When you do watch this match, watch it. It's like basically a 3-minute, 30-second match, and they get all the points across. Heat, shine, finish. And it is beautiful to watch. And that'll just show you an older Rick Martel can still go. Eddie Guerrero is showing the star that he was about to be. It's absolutely brilliant.
Awesome. Then that will lead into the question of the show that I just made up on the spot is what is your favorite match that is under 5 minutes in length? Any era, any federation, just favorite short match under 5 minutes that tells a great story in that short amount of time. As Tyson said, you don't need all the time in the world. You can do it in a short time. Let's hear what you have to say about that. You can leave comments down below if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast network, you can send questions to hammerlockpodcast@gmail.com or send them directly to Tyson on Twitter @Tyson Dux. Thank everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. Until next time, catch you later.